I'm trying a new location here, so if this cuts off, I'm going to just stop the video and I'll start it elsewhere. But there's a cute story that you may have heard. It's this guy who is late for a job interview and he is desperately trying to find a parking space, and there's just nothing to be found, and he's circling around blocks and he's gonna be late and he's gonna miss his interview, and he just starts praying, like, God, please let a parking spot open up. Like, if you do that, I'm gonna be better about my giving of charity, and I'm gonna be better about this, act that I should be working on, and starts making all of these deals and all of these promises, and he keeps circling, and then he makes one like, okay, I will stop eating non-kosher food, and I'm gonna take this upon myself, just please let a parking space open up. And right after he does that, there is this space that opens up right in front of the building where he has his job interview, and he sees it and goes to pull in. He's like, all right, I'm good. Thanks. Found one. I'm all set. Right. And this cute idea in the story, obviously, that we can end up begging and pleading and promising and praying when we desperately need help. And as soon as it comes through, we're good, all taken care of. We figured that one out on our own, and no longer are we in need of that help. And we can very quickly forget where it came from in the first place. So it's interesting that in this week's Torah portion of Eikev, that we are told that we are to be sated or satiated, and then we are to bless, to be grateful, and to offer that blessing following the fact that we've eaten. And I think it's actually sometimes the hardest when you're full, when you're relaxed, beforehand. Even, the reality is we're heading into Shabbos, and never would we begin our meal without doing, Kiddush, and without washing our hands for the challah, and without doing all of the parts that prepare us for the big meal and the big feast. Afterwards, when, at least I'll speak for myself, because I'm the one who struggles with this, passed out on the couch, and fast asleep, it can be a little hard to remember, like, oh, right, be grateful for where that came from. Stop and say the blessing after the meal and recognize it, and that idea that the recognition and the awareness and the gratitude needs to specifically follow the blessing. Of course, it needs to precede it as well, but this idea that following it, when our needs are taken care of, when we have what we've been asking for and what we want, to then be grateful. And I just saw this meme on Facebook, which was, the idea that it's commonly spoken about, but that if you, are complaining about your dirty dishes, be grateful for the fact that you have food to eat and a sink to wash them in, right? And your messy house, that you have a home, and your job that drives you crazy and you're annoyed by, there's somebody out there unemployed who would do anything for that job. And your kids who, are all over the place and driving you crazy that day, and, you're just wiped and exhausted and finished. All the people who would give everything they had to have the difficulty of child rearing, right? And that recognition that there are times, even after the fact, we're not always cognizant and recognizing the blessing. But so it's in this week's Torah portion that it speaks of the man, or the manna, this heavenly bread that came down and fed us for the 40 years that we were in the desert. And the 40 years corresponds actually to 40 weeks of pregnancy, because it was as if we were within the womb of God, so to speak, this idea that our needs were taken care of. And, just like the mother, when she eats, that is how the baby is going to receive that food and be taken care of within the womb. So too our needs were taken care of. And yet, very interestingly enough, it says we were only given enough of the manna, of the man, it's referred to in both terms, for that day. meaning we could not be sure ever or rely upon the fact. We had to completely just trust and have faith that the next day more would come. We weren't allowed to like take it and hold it and store it and, kind of keep it for the following day. The only time we got that double portion was heading into Shabbos, but the rest of the time it was about faith, which is difficult and hard because we just left a place of limitation and constriction and enslavement in Egypt. And it says that the term manna is from manhu, which is Egyptian for what is it? So there's already this connection to this place of constrictedness and slavery, which is what Egypt, Mitzrayim, represents. And yet it's also the root of the word emunah, which is faith, and that we have this dichotomy, and we have to have faith even though we have our baggage, and even though we have our issues, and even though, we have the different trauma we've been through that makes it hard for us to trust, and hard for us to have faith, and hard for us to want to rely on the fact that we're going to be taken care of. We're being told, you got to trust me. I'm going to give you what you need. I'm going to give you what you need today. And then tomorrow, I'm going to give you what you need tomorrow. And you're going to have to just rely on that and believe in that and trust me on that. And that was how the manna worked. And I think it's such an important lesson because it's really that idea. It says that we're not intended to live on bread alone. Manna is actually referred to as bread. And we use bread in English even to represent money. Right? Like, give me the dough, where's the bread, right? That we use that term about our financial stability or, financial, the income that we have. And this reminder as well, there's something bigger than us, to always recognize that's bigger than us. And I've said this many times before when speaking about Shabbos, that whatever we do, wherever that income is coming from, is really replaceable, and yet who we are is irreplaceable. And it's such an important lesson because it doesn't matter, no matter how secure you may think your job is, no matter what your contract says, no matter what it is you're doing, you're replaceable. I mean, I learned that the hard way, and let me tell you, it was one blow that, boom, something I thought I could rely on, something I thought was there, something I thought was secure was just gone, And when that happens, you realize like it's bigger than us. We have to rely. There's all of the effort we put in, and then ultimately we just have to rely and believe that if we're doing what we're supposed to be doing, we're going to be taken care of. It's going to work out. It's going to come to us. It may not come ahead of time. We may not have that security. It might not be stored away, but it will come. So with that, hi guys. Just to wrap up, and actually in the fact that the Torah portion is called Eikev, which is the word is spelled the same way as Eikev, which is the heel, is that from like our head to our feet, our heels, like what grounds us in this world, all the way up to our wisdom, it all needs to be wrapped up in this faith and this belief and this trust and this awareness that even though, yes, we have all of the difficulties we have dealt with, to believe that we're going to be taken care of, we're going to be satiated. And when we are, that's specifically when we need to give that gratitude and verbalize that gratitude and acknowledge where it came from. So with that, I hope you have a beautiful Shabbos, and we'll be in touch next week. Good Shabbos.